Hi everyone, today we're going to be exploring the human form and how we can draw the human figure, both male and female. Being able to illustrate or paint people in dynamic body positions that are better at communicating movement or emotion adds a new layer of depth to your artwork, and it really can make the composition a lot more interesting to look at and can tell the viewer so much more about what you're trying to communicate in that story or in that image. So today we're going to be going through some techniques that I use on a daily basis to try and improve my figure drawing skills, and also just going over some basic proportions of the human body, both female and male, so we can start getting a bit more familiar with the anatomy of the body in a sort of basic level. If this is something that you are quite new to, drawing figures and illustrating people in different body languages to just kind of standing up straight or sitting down in a chair, then this is going to be quite a useful video for you to start practicing and getting some good tips and tricks for what you can do on a daily basis to really start getting more confident and improving your skills with drawing figures and people. It's really important to challenge yourself to try and draw figures and body positions that you're maybe not necessarily very comfortable with. The only way you're really going to learn how to get good at drawing figures is by looking at pictures of people's bodies and going to figure drawing classes, which, you know, during the pandemic might be a bit difficult, but just looking at people's bodies in different positions and thinking about the overall shape which the body is creating. There's lots of really great websites that you can use as reference that have thousands and thousands of images of male and female models, both clothed and unclothed, in all of the positions that you can possibly imagine, and they give you a lot of really great features where you can actually practice sketching on a timer, so you can start to get a bit faster at sketching. So I'll be showing you some of these websites and how I use them to practice sketching every day later in this video. But first, I'm going to be showing you guys how I personally like to break down the different parts of the body, like the head, the torso, the hips, the legs, the arms, and how I use basic shape to just get the overall undersketch of how the body is going to look as a whole. And then after that, I will draw over that undersketch and I'll start refining more detailed lines where I'm defining what the body actually looks like in a more literal sense. After that, we're going to be going to a section where I'm just going to be doing some quick figure drawing from the websites that I have mentioned earlier, where we're just going to do some quick 30-second figure drawing exercises just to help you get a little bit more loose with drawing figures and get a bit more used to identifying the core shape of the body. Okay, let's get into it. For this video, I'm going to be using a pencil and paper. Nothing too special. I quite like working on traditional mediums for this kind of exercise, but if you guys want to use pens or watercolors, your iPad, whatever you fancy using, it really doesn't matter as long as you're practicing this exercise in a way that's comfortable to you and you're getting a good bit of practice out of it. Right, so we're going to go into a figure drawing lesson where I'll show you how I like to proportion out the female and the male figure when I'm sketching them. So it starts off on the female figure. So I always like to start off with just a circle for the head. Nice and loose and faint here, it doesn't have to be perfect, this is just a construction line helping you understand where everything's going to go. So coming down from that circle and I'm drawing the head. I always like to start with the head. I just think it helps everything fall into place nice and easily if you start with the head, but sometimes it's convenient to start with other parts of the body. So from the head here, I like, for the female face, I normally like to make the chin quite fine and pointed. Try not to make it too broad, like a man's chin. So from here, you just draw the neck. I think for a female neck, a lot of the time for this sort of generic female form, make the neck a little bit more dainty, so it's not coming out the same width as the face, but it's kind of coming in slightly from where that jaw begins. And then, you know, just very lightly at the base of the neck, leaving a tiny bit of space between the neck and this thing we're about to sketch here. Just start sketching in a really light trapeze shape. You want this trapeze to be not too wide on that top edge because we're sketching the female form. So we want to try and maintain that sort of feminine, petite stereotype. And then opposite that trapeze, we're going to draw a trapeze that is about the same proportion, giving a bit of space here for the midriff. So obviously the female figure is something that comes in a million different varieties, and there are countless variations of what a body can look like, but this is just sort of a generic figure drawing guide for a generic hourglass type of figure. So at the top of this trapeze, we're just going to draw some loose ellipses here, just to symbolise the sockets of the shoulders. Sharpen my pencil. And also at the base of the neck here, we're going to just quickly draw a nice straight line from the bottom of the head to the trapeze. And we're just going to have, where this trapeze is meeting the neck, just going to draw a small U shape, which is going to represent where the neck is ending and where the collarbone is meeting the torso. We're also going to draw here where the rib cage is coming up, because the rib cage has a round front to it. We're going to just draw that so we can see where the tilt of the rib cage is. Now from the base of this trapeze here, which is the hips trapeze, I'm going to just draw a small triangle to represent where the groin area is and where the legs are going to be meeting. And now I'm just going to draw a sort of rough, long trapeze shape here to sort of represent the legs. Drawing a quick line here where the ankles are going to be, and then another quick line where we're going to have our feet. So when I'm drawing the legs, I like to think about having sort of a proportion of the quads and the calves, shins being about equal length. I think the quads are slightly larger, but again, really it just depends on what kind of person you'd like to draw. So for this particular one, I'm going to try and make them almost the same. I think the calves will be slightly shorter. And I like to sort of start this, you know, where the crotch area is kind of meeting the bottom of this trapeze. You can sort of have that as a guide for where you're going to stop and start this ellipse, and then on the outside of that long trapeze that you've just sketched, just draw a quick circle here for the knees so you can get the direction for where the knees are. And then coming down here, and you just draw some other trapezes again for where the feet are going to be. And now doing the same thing in the arms, you're going to come from where we sketched that ellipse for the shoulder, and we're just going to bring the top of the arm to about the point where the top of this trapeze is. Where the crease of the hip is, we're going to just draw a small elbow, and that's about as far as the top of the arm will come. And then the forearms will follow, the hands and the wrists coming about at the bottom of where this trapeze is here, proportionally. Nice, so that's our sort of rough shape. And obviously the human body is not made out of trapezes and ellipses, so we're going to then use this as a guide. You can slightly rub this out a bit if you want to line it up a bit so it's not too distracting from your overdrawing. So you can still see all your construction lines at the bottom there. You don't have to do that, it's just something that's sometimes quite nice so you can see when you're drawing over it a little bit better. So now you can just use these forms that you've put in as a really rough guide, remembering that the female body is an organic form, it's round and flowing, and you're not going to really be having any real hard edges in there. So you can see where this rib cage is here. You've got this line that you put in there, that little U shape, which you can then use for the neck and bringing in that collarbone. joining the neck to the outside of those ellipses that you've drawn for the shoulders. And again, I never really use the top of the ellipse as a guide, I just sort of use it as a positional guide and just get it so the proportions are looking right. So kind of just below where this trapeze sort of starts, where the hips start to have a bit of a crease, I'd say I put the belly button just in the middle of the top middle of that trapeze there. And then where this line is, you kind of got the ankles coming in there, so you can draw the ankles, just a small bump for the ankle, and then you've got the feet. You don't need to go too much detail for this, because it's... So as you can see there, we've got our very basic standing position female form. So looking a little bit closer into this form, as you'll notice, these are obviously three-dimensional forms, and it's easy for us to take sections of this and adapt it to create movement. So let's look at the torso to start off with. So we could easily make this torso energetic. So I'm going to have the rib cage here, moving in this sort of direction, which means the shoulders will be here, the other shoulder will be sort of here somewhere, and the neck from the spine line that you've drawn back here will be coming up here somewhere, which means the top of the head will be meeting the back of the neck. So you can then connect up these little ellipses here. Perhaps we could have our arm coming out like this to create a bit of movement. So you can really get this trapeze looking quite small at the bottom here, because she's obviously stretched out and her body's in a different position, so maybe her hips will be out like that somewhere. Oh, his hips are a bit long. Hips will probably be about there. So it's really just about looking at the proportions and trying to get it looking right. Again, having that U shape there. So you could really use this center line as a guide for the direction that the torso is facing, so do something like this, which means that the hips are probably going to compensate for that movement by being back here. So this one, I'm imagining it's sort of here, that centre line's coming down this way, which means that this shoulder is probably all the way over here. You probably can't even see that one very well from here. And again, this spine line here that we've got is kind of coming back here, I think. So perhaps that arm's coming here. It's really nice to try and think about using these trapezes as three-dimensional forms, using them to inform your shading. So again, we can have another one where she's sort of bending forwards. You've got the chest that's kind of there, the ribs over here. She's doing some kind of curtsy. So you can really use these to inform how you're going to shade. And again, you can see how the hips will always compensate for movement, so I guess with the hips you can have the hips sort of starting at an angle. Or you have the torso facing frontways, and maybe the hips pivoting to one side. So you can see how easily we can manipulate those trapezes to create a dynamic shape. And now for the male figure. We're going to start with a little circle for the head, and now we want the jaw to be a bit more square because it's a male figure, so I'm just going to come down and square off that jaw a bit more. Large jaw, and now I'm going to have the neck coming down from either side of where the jaw begins, so the neck's a lot thicker. And now the man, when we're drawing our trapezes, we're going to make the top trapeze a bit wider on the top, because men have generally wider shoulders than women do. And now the hips, instead of making them the same size trapeze, we're going to make the hips instead a lot more narrow than we have made our top trapeze. Again, ellipsis for the shoulders on the outside edge of that top trapeze. And generally the men's legs will be a bit bigger, so we're going to draw slightly more rounded ellipses ball for the knees. And again, just a little trapeze for the foot. And drawing that line from the center of the neck down, putting our little U shape here for the collarbone where it meets the neck. And again for the arms, just going to draw in to this point here, elbow. And then again to this point here where the hips end, that's where we're going to have the hands. Now when we're joining these together, we're just going to not emphasize the curvature of where these two are meeting too much. We're just going to join them together in a bit more of a straight, uniform line. Again, just remembering that the human body is not made up of hard shapes. So when we're drawing the pectoral muscles here, really bring that towards that center line. I think I might have made this trapeze a little bit too long, so I'm going to bring that trapeze up to about here. It's a bit better. And that means that we have to bring these up a little bit as well. So you just got to kind of play around with proportions here and find out what you think looks about right. So if you want to make your male form look more muscular, you can emphasize these bits here, make the arms a bit bigger. And again, we've just got all these nice proportions for the male figure. And once again, looking at the torso. Not going to do as many here because we've already sort of gone through this exercise. I'm just seeing how torso could be used to emphasize. Oh, forgot to put the rib cage in there. So got that rib cage there. Torso's in this kind of direction. Right, so I think you guys get the principles. So now we want to think about creating dynamic form. So in this section, I'm just gonna speed through and just show you guys a few examples of the kind of things that you can do once you understand this way of proportioning out the body and using, you know, the trapezes and ellipses and the center lines to understand where everything is kind of happening in the body and how you can then use that basic structure to build upon and create really interesting shapes with the body. So this first page is just going to be a series of female figures in dancing positions. They're all quite a positive, uplifting sort of feel to them, kind of elegant and beautiful. So you can see how just having a basic understanding of these proportions and being able to break the body down into sections really allows you to have a bit more of a play with body language and create shapes that are a lot more dynamic and have a real sense of motion and aliveness to them. I really recommend that you guys practice these techniques regularly and, just have a bit of fun with playing around with these different shapes that you can use to build up the body and seeing how you can create really interesting dynamic forms in your art pieces. Even if it's just in a sketchbook where you have a little practice, it's a really useful exercise to do this a couple times a week, just so you can get really comfortable with coming up with interesting forms and practicing breaking the body down into these various different components. And now in this quick section, I'm just using the male form as an example to just show how we could portray a few different body language that maybe infer a variety of different emotions in the characters that we are sketching. Right, so we're almost ready to wrap up this section. After we finish doing this quick speed sketch, we're gonna go into the second part of this video where I'm gonna show you a quick exercise that I like to do every day just to get myself used to paying attention to the different shapes that the body can make and really loosely just mapping out and getting used to understanding the different shapes that the body can create in various different positions and how you can use those as inspiration to create some dynamic images when you are creating illustrations freehand. There are some great websites that we can use that help us to generate lots of images of figures in various different positions. Just really a great resource that I like to use. Okay, so the website that we are going to be using for our first exercise is called Line of Action, and it's basically just a website that generates thousands of different images of people in various positions, and right in the beginning here you can basically select if you want models that are clothed, models that are nude, female or male models, and which age ranges you want. So I'm gonna put in all four here. I think really the best thing to do when you're doing a figure drawing exercise is to use nude models, because I think when you have clothes interfering with how you're seeing the form, it can sometimes make it difficult to understand the female or male form and how various parts of the anatomy are flowing, because the clothes can sometimes be kind of distracting. But because we're putting this on YouTube, unfortunately, I have to go for the clothed models on this one. So you can basically come down to this session area and you can choose the interval of time that you're going to be doing various drawing exercises. So I'm going to set this to be 40 seconds, and I'm just going to pop my iPad over here against my Wacom. So as you guys can see, this exercise is something I do quite frequently. I try to do this a few times a week, which is why my sketchbook is absolutely filled with figure drawing rough images and also some facial feature ones, a couple of animal ones there as well. This exercise is just really useful for getting your hand used to sketching people and various different body language positions, and just getting you into the habit of understanding how to create movement and portray the form in various different positions. So it's just a quick exercise that I recommend doing a couple times a week if you don't have time to do it every day, just to get your hands nice and warmed up, getting you used to identifying various areas of the body and sort of line of action of the body. So let's get started. So when you're ready, you just click Get Drawing on this session here, and you're just going to be given a bunch of images, and I always like to sort of start with just lining out like where the main line of the body is going. So this boy here that you can see, his body is kind of going in this sort of line. So just gonna sketching very quickly like where his head's going to go. The head's really not a very important part of this. You just really want to be trying to get like the overall movement of the position that person's in. I'm going to get like a little bowl for the hips here, just kind of getting a sense of how the legs are moving, because you only have 30 seconds or 40 seconds to do this, so the whole point is it's not going to be anatomically correct, but you're just getting used to identifying the key positions of the body. So on this one, this guy's quite static. Just really drawing in like that central line of the body first, and where the hips are, and then drawing out where the hips kind of coming out into the standing position that he's in. So he's wearing clothes, so you kind of have to infer on the clothes models where things are, but you know, you guys will be doing this with nude models, so it's much easier to get a sense of the form. So you see here, just really, really quick, you're not really thinking about it too much. The head's kind of the least important part for this, because you're really just trying to think about body language and the form. The head kind of falls on quite naturally after you've got the rest of the form right. Mess this one up a bit. So she's kind of sat here, and then her hips are kind of there, the legs kind of going this way, and the other legs coming up, this leg's kind of coming down, her arms coming across here, so the torso sort of twisting. See how the body is moving in this kind of curved line. You've got the chest here, the hips, the arms are coming up and making this really elongated shape. This arm, the shoulders here, crushing down. The head's kind of at an angle. The rest of the body is a bit static down here. So it's just a really great exercise just to do like a few of these, just to get used to identifying the form of the body, just to get used to really quickly mapping out like where everything is, what's going on. So this one, you've got the line of the spine here, kind of coming down there, his legs sort of twisting. The clothes can really be used to make a sense of movement here as well, if you are sketching in the clothes. I hope you guys can see the value in doing this type of exercise on a regular basis. It really, really helps to get your hands warmed up and just get you a little bit more used to identifying the various different shapes that the body can make, getting a bit more comfortable with creating dynamic forms when figure drawing. And I think it can really help you to level up your skills before going into sketching a real piece or creating a real painting, because this exercise can really inform your creativity with thinking about shape and the different various positions that the body can be in. I hope you guys found this video useful. I really enjoy working on this kind of stuff, and it's really nice to share with you my techniques that I use to improve my figure drawing and portraying body language. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then make sure to drop me a comment in the section below and give me a thumbs up to let me know that you like this kind of content. If you'd like to see more from me and my channel, where I will be sharing with you my process for how I've created some of my favourite paintings, my journey as I become a better artist and illustrator, and also just sharing with you my tips and tricks that I've learned along the way to help you gain your confidence, find your style and improve as an artist, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell to get notifications for all of my latest videos that I'm releasing. Thanks so much guys for watching, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye!